Okay, we should be live anytime now. Perfect. Awesome. I'll just wait until it pops up on the screen and I can see it on Facebook. Something's happening. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I see us. We're moving. Good sign.
We are here.
We are
The
here.
spaceship has landed.
We're getting present in the now from our naps and all the crazy ass energies today. Holy crap, I almost died.
Yeah, let's start with that first. I think that's the best jump point.
Well, what happened to you? I got a story, but we can
Okay.
start with yours.
Mine is more, I think, subtle. I think I was experiencing more of ecstatic energies today.
Cool.
I saw a friend that I haven't seen in a while, and just me stepping into her car, she was like, "Wow, your energy is unbelievable." And so I got like a lot of that reinforcement. I was like, "Okay, great." But like it was a lot of good overwhelm of energy, but like in a good way.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, to get that reassurance and the validation that something's changing, even though you can't feel
Yes.
it sometimes,
Yes.
you're sitting and every day it's like this much bigger or different or whatever, and you can't see it in yourself, but you really need that reflection sometimes.
I see it externally everywhere with like friends that I've spoken to. Like everything is just switching, and like I'm just like, okay, the fruits of my labor are paying off somehow, some way.
Cool. And I guess we didn't introduce ourselves, so I'll let you introduce yourself before we get in too deep.
Hello, internet world. My name is Anya Day, located in California, Los Angeles, coming to you live at 6:43 p.m.
Pacific Standard Time.
Pacific Standard Time.
Yep. And Paul Hanrader here, coming from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and it's 7:43 p.m. here. So unfortunately, Patrick couldn't join us. He loves to attend these, but it's almost 10 o'clock his time. So
Oh, wow.
we will we will let him join us on the next one. Um, so mine was, I had this hard time sleeping last night, and it would just come and go, and I'd wake up about every 2 hours, which seems like almost normal now. But
Oh.
my higher self was forcing new structure into my body. I don't even know how to describe it. It was just like I could feel it in my pelvis. It was like these building blocks were being pushed in, and I was resisting. And I just kept surrendering and surrendering and surrendering. And I was getting angry at a few points, but we all do that sometimes.
Yeah, accurate.
And no matter how spiritual are, sometimes you just want to tear one off and say, "Get the fuck out! I need some sleep here." So and then yeah, the energies got stronger. I went to lunch with my son. We went to Olive Garden, had a really beautiful waiter, but it just kept getting denser and denser and denser as the place filled up, and it just wasn't feeling good. And then
Oof.
coming home, and I was just like so anxious. I just wanted to jump out of my skin and go running away as quickly as I could. And then excuse my French, but I got to be polite about it. But the idiots all of a sudden started showing up around us, like people that were swerving in front of us and driving crazy, and we're just trying to stay safe. And then we got almost to our house, and there's these two black trucks. It's just a standard like T intersection. We're turning into the base of the T, and they decided to have a visit in the middle of the intersection, completely blocking us from going in. And we're like signaling, and luckily my son was driving, and then finally they're looking at us like we're a bunch of idiots for expecting the road to be open, and he just laid on the horn, and both of us were ready. I don't know, our like that lack of respect that takes is crazy. uh but my son had a drink, and he's like, if they would have said one word, I would have chucked the drink right because it was just so stupid. You're doing something that keeps me from getting to my house. Is that a big thing to expect? So it felt like the universe was just piling up all this stuff, and we were trying to be like, so many expect you to be spiritually bypassed. Oh, just let it go and it's all okay and all this kind of stuff. No, people that are not aligning with some really basic rules, we've been shut down so many times and told that we shouldn't, but no, I have an expectation that the road's going to be empty because two guys can't figure out how to pull off and have a conversation. So But we were both seething for like 20 minutes after that. It was just like, what the hell is going on here? And I see a lot of, oh, Patrick must be watching, just gave us a heart. But um, you part of what we're going to talk about here is presence in the now. And at least speaking from my perspective, I want to give permission to all the light workers and other people that are on here that it's okay to expect that people follow really basic rules and have some level of respect for us, no matter how level of cognitive dissonance they are in or whatever. So I made a declaration on my live earlier today. I was sitting on the step and it's beautiful here. It was like 70 your temperature, and I was sitting on my front step and there's a pile of snow right in front of me, but it was just beautiful. But I started to say, it's like, okay, I choose to be respected in those situations. I choose from this place of deep inner exploring and all this kind of stuff that I don't need to get tripped at every step of the stage because other people are not in that same level of awareness. And just made a choice to the universe, because those were all symbols. I could say, oh, it's darkness attacking me, or these are awful people or whatever. No, they were just people that were dead asleep. And it was just so stupid. It was like, what do you call it, those cops or whatever, Keystone cops or whatever in the circus or whatever. They're just like trying to figure out how to move because they've got themselves in this place, and we're so lost to even figure it out. So I'd really say right now it's a choice that we need to declare to the universe of stepping out of that reality and that old pattern and stepping above it. And I haven't allowed myself to have the respect that I should have in the past, but I'm stepping into it, and it's really necessary. Like you said, the presence in the now is like creating that. And it's not unreasonable. If I can't create a world within me that aligns to laws and basic rules, how am I going to set example for anybody else's universe to be different or better? Because these are all side effects. It didn't used to happen, but when people are in fear and they're in cognitive dissonance, they're doing it more often. They're doing things that just don't make sense in any way, shape, or form. And that's a result of what's getting cleaned up, not me.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And
sorry,
at the
long
same
time there.
time, you're like being taught to become the master of your own universe. And so it's like these things come up.
And that can involve some rage and some frustration, not to the point where you're going to hit somebody, but going up to them and say, come on, man, like, what the hell? You're being an idiot, and don't look at me like I'm being an idiot. And then it changes things, because now there's basic rules like that so that people can get around and they don't have accidents and they don't do something stupid. And there's no permission to step outside of that. If they want to go down the street and do it, you don't have to do it in front of me anymore, because I'm not gonna fix you or change you or solve it. But I'm going to insist that I can get to my house and move and do these things that are just normal, without feeling like I have a high expectation, which it isn't. So.
You mentioned something, how you made a choice, you choose. And I think that I'm in the same path right now where I'm just affirming things. And the biggest affirmation I had recently is because I deserve it.
Beautiful. And we haven't for so long, right?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Like, that's just been such a powerful program that's been programmed for so long.
So to get to the root of it, why weren't you worth it? Or why didn't you deserve it in the past?
Oh God. Well, I'm unraveling that right now. You can ask my hypnotherapist.
Cool.
But a lot of it was self-worth issues framed around, you know, going to school and having a perfectionist father as a template, and a lot of damage done that way that just diminished my self confidence and deservingness.
I think mine stems back to not wanting to be seen anymore after being hurt many times. And I would always complain that women didn't see me or other people didn't see me. And it was a choice that I'd made because that was the only sometimes rationale I could determine of why something didn't happen. And you had to put it in that bin after a while, and they couldn't see you. And it was just easier not to be seen. And children, unfortunately, are children are meant to be seen and not heard, or not
Yeah.
not seen or whatever. So that sits with a lot of us.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and when you're not seen, or you're not making a show, or making a lot of noise, it's much easier to just slip under the carpet and not have
And
to
numb
deal with
yourself.
exactly. Agreed.
I still see that happening with like my sister. I'll like leave my body because I don't want to be seen. I am just watching it now. I didn't notice it before.
Is that the one that was 8 years older you were talking about earlier this week, or? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and she said some pretty direct stuff to you, right? Which
Yeah.
most people would just, I don't know, fall apart, collapse under, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you made a pretty aware assessment in the car there when you did your live earlier, and how that felt. And did you get to the bottom of why she was doing that? I gave you some hints from what I could see, but did you get more to the bottom of that for your
Uh,
self?
Not yet, but I think like a lot of it was what you had said correct, where it's just her own fear pretty much projected. And someone had pointed out, like asked me like, did she grow up in like the USSR? And she did. She came to the United States when she was 10. So that's enough time to see a lot of crazy shit and a lot of scarcity mindset, especially in the USSR. So
Communism and stuff, yeah.
yeah, so I think that has probably some interplay in her background as well.
Mhm. And for maybe those that didn't see it, her sister kind of talked down to her and just evaluated or devalued everything that she was, and said, you don't have a relationship, you don't have a house, and if you don't get it by 40 or something, you're lost, is
Yeah,
the sum total.
yeah, she said she was genuinely concerned for my current status in the world and had expected me to be mentally on her level by this age.
Absolutely. Well, I've had similar. I had a point where my sister took me out for lunch and sat down with me, and she
Hmm.
said how uncomfortable I made people by speaking about my sexuality stuff. And I really had to stop because that wasn't a good thing. And she was just looking out for me, and it was all good. And she was loving me in her way. And I appreciated it. But it was essentially, what's underneath this is, you're making me really fucking uncomfortable. So stop being that way. And I can't ascertain why you're so happy, but just stop doing it because it doesn't align with me and the way I feel. But
Yeah.
they're so densely uh, assigned or in alignment with 3D that you're literally breaking down their world by saying those things, and they want you to stop because that's safe and that makes you
Yes.
comfortable to everybody. And I don't know about you, but I haven't come here to make anybody comfortable. I don't want to sit in that shit ever again.
No, no more. No more placating.
Absolutely. And yes, we go against social norms for the highest good of the person, because I went through that and it was painful as hell to see it all, and how shame and guilt and lack of sexuality and lack of understanding all that stuff was. And I've stepped through it, and I can say, for the highest good of all, if we work on our sexuality, you will enlighten or awaken way faster than any other topic I can talk about.
Yes.
Because most of us have a trauma about sexuality. Most of us have all this programming that doesn't align with us, and we just want to break out of it. My only goal in life is to speak about things for the highest good. Take it or leave it, your choice. But I don't do it to purposely scare people or make them think out of the, well, I want them to think out of the box, but to question their reality. But their reality has to be fucking questioned, because it's mixed up. Everybody's sad, everybody's uncomfortable, everybody's in these messed up relationships. I want to talk about
Mm-hmm.
relationships, and And once we get to the bottom of it, there's a truth in there. It may be scary, but would you prefer I just sat there and said, oh, you're all okay, and oh, you got to find a relationship on you because that's where it's at? No, if you're not doing it for yourself, that's a lie. That's just in validating some 3D story Cinderella that we've been talking about, right?
Yeah, shout out Cinderella. But I do think that is so true and accurate what you've been saying. And I was even thinking about that yesterday about the power of sex, sexuality, sexual energy, and what that gives you. And I was thinking, like, that is our subconscious motivation for a lot of things in life. And if
Almost
you had
everything.
everything, and if you had experienced sexual rejection, a lot of us, and me included, have used the pain of sexual rejection to reach a goal and achieve things. Like I used so much pain to fuel my art and the career I had previous to this, and
Hmm.
everything, all my achievements, meeting people, being out there on the scene. I used that pain, that sexual rejection, and we did a lot. Like even a lot of famous comedians or whoever talk about that. And
Hmm.
I thought about that. I was like, wouldn't it be interesting if we did the reverse of that, like using the sexual empowerment and
Hmm.
exuding that and using that as your motivation rather than the opposite aspect of the pain and rejection.
Well, just look at it as our sexual energy is our creation energy.
Yeah.
And when we're in our passion and we're sharing it with another person, it magnifies if it's done right. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's messed up. So literally, you're look at it as like that trampoline that you're going to jump off of. And can you imagine how your art would have turned out if you had a loving partner with you that was sharing in the creative energy, and both of you are like you're fully 100% of your energy, but it goes exponential when your two energies come together and it's for the highest good of both. It's not about, okay, I'm doing this friction based experience so I can get an orgasm or whatever. It's about 3, 4, 5 hours just touching and feeling and waiting for hearing the pleasure sounds and building. And that's like art in itself. And now all of a sudden, when you're in that art of your life, how few of us, I would conjecture, even if you're married, most people aren't getting nearly the amount of sex that they want or that their body really needs. And I'll be the first to tell you, you start looking at ailments in our body, heart attacks, testicular cancer, ovary cancer. All these things are all our repression and our anger and our frustration that are going in to create a dis-ease around the free flow of our sexual juices, our life force. And the whole societal image as far back as we can go, and it's huge in the epigenetics because it was way worse back in the 1800s, early 1900s, where the repression was like women had to wear skirts that went right to the ground and you couldn't show cleavage and
Corsets.
yeah. So, but at the same time, they're putting corsets on and shaping and naming their body in all these ways to have these figures and insanity. So when we get back, we really got to find a way to unwind that sexual piece and then at least get us touching ourselves first, because you can't start by touching somebody else. It's all mangled up. But once you're starting to love yourself and choosing what you want and know what you want, then you reach out and you start asking. And
Mm-hmm.
there's beautiful ways to ask. And we don't need to get all down on that topic, but just having relationship or sexuality to learn and to figure out and release your traumas, allow those people to come into your life. Do you want to be married to the person that's here to release your trauma from your sexual wounding? Or do you want to get through that and then make a choice when you're fully embodied in yourself? Because most of those decisions are coming from, I'm not good enough for anybody better. And I'm going to take this drunk guy or woman with all these problems and try and fix them. And then 15 years later with kids, it's just all broken.
Yeah. And
So,
so to
yeah.
jump off that, like I do think that there is in this creation energy, creative force, like that is where manifestation, the true power of manifestation
Begins.
lies.
Yeah. So how does manifestation work for you?
Oh my God. I've been like figuring that mechanism out for so long.
Mhm.
I've been able to, so prior to the massive spiritual awakening I've had, I always noticed how I would manifest these exquisite things from time to time.
Mhm.
And I would look back and I'm like, how the hell did I do it? And
Mhm.
like for a lot of it, it was just me choosing, I want this, and just saying it once and forgetting about it. But just being in that,
Possibility.
yeah, just being in that energy of excitement, but not harping or dwelling on it. Just like
Mhm.
I want it, and like I just aligned to it, but I didn't think about it
Mhm.
or obsess about it at all.
Mhm. Now, have you watched The Secret? Because that's where a
Yes.
lot of people started out. How did you find it was different from what The Secret said? Because this, what The Secret said, never really worked for me. The more you got engaged and put that vibration out and stuff like that, it would
Hmm.
put these perverted versions of what I asked for in my face, like somebody that's really broken or
Hmm.
whatever. How did you find all that?
I mean, I think it's a good jump point, but I think it forgets the necessary ingredient, which is the harnessing the present moment.
Hmm.
It just talks about, yeah, think good thoughts, think good thoughts. Okay, yeah, well, you have like a million bad thoughts and one good
Yeah.
thought every second. So you have to address those before
Yeah.
going into that. So it's just like I
Yeah.
think it was nice. It's a nice reminder sometimes to watch, but I think it just forgets to talk about the present moment, and that is where the
Mhm.
container of the magic happens.
So, how would you describe getting into that in your world?
Mm. Just, being grounded in your body,
Mhm.
feeling just less up here, less chatter, but observing if there is chatter as that monkey mind, just observing it lovingly and coming back here, coming back to your breath and doing things that bring you into the moment, whether that's working on something you enjoy or having a
Mhm.
conversation or
And
just,
how does it feel in your body when you get to those places when you use all those things?
it feels like a surrendered flow state.
Okay.
Just you're not worried about you're not rehashing a past situation and you're not pining for a future outcome.
Hmm. And you're not distracted and you're fully focused. And what about the feeling part of it?
That's a good question. You just kind of like you just feel a peaceful container, I think. You're just like, I'm here. This is cool.
Hmm. And in the manifestation state, like I'm speaking from what Lori Ladd said, she did a
Yeah.
video, it's on my timeline, but she said three is intention, and then getting to the state of that, like feeling and connecting to a part of yourself that's already there,
Yes.
and then fully embodying it, like just
Yeah.
pulling that part of you into you and just feeling it. And that's the flow state feeling. But now you're like, your shoulders are up and square, and you're confident, and you're embodying all these things that may not be right here,
Hmm.
and then just sending it off. And what did she say? It was like 6 or 7 minutes or something like that. Just sit in that state.
Yeah, it's like she was talking about how it's like also I don't know if it was the same video, but I know the one you're talking about, but also just it's all different moments of now, and that person that version of you is in a different now moment, and you're trying to bring that now into this
Mhm.
now.
So if people don't understand the physics of that, some people have heard like Spider-Man, the multiverse. The multiverse is basically same as Matrix. Like when Neo goes and he sits in the architect's office and you see all the screens, these are the 10 million different things that he could say in the next now moment. And all of a sudden, a whole different possibility comes out of that one choice. So the choice of you that's become that millionaire, that's become that massive, amazing lover, that person that teaches people or whatever your calling is, and just connect to that and then pull it into this timeline and start to feel that energy. And it's really just, we're all programmed as energy, so it's just feeling the energy of that flow. And
Hmm.
it's like the computer program downloads for that to show up in your world. The universe just now tries to find a place that aligns it. Or where I found The Secret fell down, it will run into one of your core beliefs that makes it
Hmm.
impossible, and
Mm-hmm.
it will create this discord in you, and it'll be like, what the fuck is going on? Why is this not working out? Why it is
Mm-hmm.
my lovers never turn out or whatever? And then you get to look at that core belief, and if
Yeah.
you keep working on that core belief and eventually you release it, then you manifest again, and a different version of it will come. And I think what a lot of us have had is we are manifesting, but it's perverted by 16,000 different things. And the more and more we clean ourselves up, the more and more pure that result is
Yes.
that you called in.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's like if you spend like the first 20 years of your life telling yourself that you're not worthy, or you have a fear of true love or what have you, or money,
Mm-hmm.
like it's not gonna, thinking a good thought is a little bit futile. That's nice, that's sweet, we've
Mm-hmm.
all been there, and you're like, why isn't it working? And it's human nature to like get, I got like so in a funk about it because I'm like, where is my shit?
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm like, I step into the higher version. I'm like, oh, okay, I need to change this script. I need to stop dwelling. And then I'm like a scientist, like balancing and alchemizing, and
Mm-hmm.
give up that resistance and
Mm-hmm.
sink back after I do that. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm worthy. I'm worthy. And like figuring out what the root of the block was, but then going back to, oh, yes, I am worthy. I do deserve this.
Mm-hmm. And then you run into, oh, my dad said this or my mom said that, and it twists you out again and said, okay, it wasn't worthiness. Now it was like, oh, you'll never find, or your sister saying you'll, if you're almost 40, you're not going to get a lover or whatever. Those are all things that come in with their highest supposed intention for us, that if we choose to believe, we're kind of screwed until we make a choice for us.
Yeah.
And that's the unwinding process, right? And it can take a while. uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like in the past, like we've had these like serendipitous things or coincidences, whatever word you want to use, and like these cool manifestations. And I do believe that it's kind of like beginner's luck, where it's just trying to lure you in because you're like, oh, this is nice, I got a free trip to Paris, okay. But
mhm.
like, and then you try to recreate it, and then the universe is like, no, 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 you got to play my game now, you got to purify yourself before, if you want the next version of this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And okay, you said the word purify yourself. How would you align that with awakening process, and how did it work for you so that people can kind of get an insight and say, okay, yeah, I'm doing that, and here's
uh
the alignment. Go ahead.
that's a good question. I think it's becoming aware of your thoughts, the dark thoughts, and transmuting the old energy, and shedding the disingenuous parts of you that aren't you, and connecting more with the authentic, the raw, the real you, and going to
Mhm.
that direction more.
And would you call them shedding, or would you call them making peace with them?
Making peace, shedding,
Because
but
I don't
just
think they go away. I just think the belief was held on to a part of myself, and I it's mostly my little boy, and I'll
mm-hmm.
just go and hug him for a while and say, that's not really true, here's some evidence that it isn't. And then eventually it's like, oh really? I can't have it, sir. And yeah, then it
Yeah.
starts to come out.
Yeah, I mean, I think deep down it is like the little inner child that has been fractured and fragmented, and our self-worth just declined so much because of it. And so it's just going to reclaim that sovereignty, that self-worth again, that you are deserving.
Mhm, mhm.
So in that purification process of coming
And
back.
look at the process, it just shrinks us and shrinks us and shrinks us into a cage. And then you get to your 40s and you have a midlife crisis, and everybody thinks you're insane because you're just loving the hell out of yourself and you're buying your sports car, or you're having a divorce, or whatever, because the cage is so tight. You eventually just, it was either that or death. And a
Yeah.
lot of people will make that choice, and they'll choose themselves. Nobody will understand them. And then it gives that risk to their own world exploding into a million pieces because this guy is outside the off the range and doing it. And maybe our lover, or wife or husband will start to see that there's greener possibilities, and then it'll destroy their marriage, right? That's the process we live in now. So I don't want to get down onto that path, but just realize that we're constantly waking up, and every time we choose ourselves and we look inside and we don't self-deprecate and we don't people please and we don't do all that stuff, we look inside and we prove to that little boy or girl that we're really choosing us right now.
Mm-hmm.
That creates a presence. It starts to shift your perspective. He'll in my case, he'll more go with my decisions and not fight me.
Mm-hmm.
He'll more be willing to try new things and see new outcomes. But well, almost 50 years old, dating and all this kind of stuff all beat me down and said, okay, I wasn't worthy of all those things, because I've always come from a place that was really open-hearted, and some people see that as trying to manipulate or whatever, but it never was from my perspective. It's like open heart. You got me. If you want to be in love, I'll open my heart wide, and most people wouldn't know how to deal with that, because that's like, yeah, I got everything all at once. And that was me with poor boundaries and other things. But now we're starting to look back and say, okay, there was something different here. And I came for an earth that wasn't the earth that I started in. I came for the earth that's right now, right?
Yes.
Where we openly love, and it's not about proving yourself or all those kind of things. I just open my heart and here, see all of me right here and right now. And if you don't want to show yourself, well, it makes it kind of hard for us to connect. But if you're willing to open that same way, we're going to have a deep and loving experience. We're going to find out really quickly if we're meant for each other. And then we get the choice to move on. It's not like I got to get married to you and have kids and all this kind of stuff to have that thing resonate. Well, no, it's all bullshit, because I'd love to have kids with somebody that loves me or doesn't have trauma, so I'm not passing all that stuff down to my kids. It's not that my wife was bad or there was some problem in it or whatever. It was just I was living the story that this world forces us into, is go choose somebody for the rest of your life with as little information as possible, because it's a really kind of screwed up process. And then you're choosing, and then you think made a big mistake, and then you're less worthy and you're less confident and you're less whatever. So now you got to go look in the toilet of everything that never worked out for you. That's where you're saying, getting back to that presence all the time. It's just like digging down. Where's the bottom of the septic tank? Because it's poop. And then you clean the bottom off and you wash it all up and sanitize it. And then you can sit there and it's like, now I can make a decision.
Yes.
That's presence.
Yes.
When
And
you're
living in that moment.
So here, let me ask you a question, because it was true for me. Did you find earlier in life you were walking about a foot above your head in your energy all the time?
All the time.
Okay.
All the time. And if I was to, like, let's say travel, I would feel myself come back to my body if it was like a new experience. But for the most part, it was autopilot. Up, so away.
You're so tight. You don't want to be in your body. You don't want to have that experience because it's all fight or flight or something bad happen. Like, how many people out there, you can ask the group, but a lot of our life experience in being in 3D right now is something bad's going to happen, because we're braced for impact all day long. Car accident impact, or somebody screaming at us, or our kids blowing up, or our lover leaving us, or whatever. We're constantly ready for that worst thing that could possibly happen.
Yeah, it's our brain's way of survival mode. So we're living in survival mode rather than creation mode. And even our our nervous system adapts to that. Like, if it's in survival mode, you're going to breathe a certain way and you're going to be on the lookout for a threat.
And how many times do you go to bed and you lay down and you can feel your heart pounding and you don't know why, and you're trying to breathe, everything's completely fine, and you're trying to relax, but your heart's going boom, 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 boom. Does that happen to you? Like,
it used to.
It happens all the time still. Yep.
It used to. I suffered a lot from anxiety, a lot, very severe. I didn't even know I had it. That's how blind I was to it. But yeah.
So how would you describe how it felt in your body, just so that people can have a frame of reference, because they may have it too?
It just felt so uncomfortable It felt, I don't know how to describe it, but like anything could happen in 1 second and I wouldn't be able to handle it. And drama, like overreaction. It
But
felt like,
you did handle it though. So how was that a twist inside your brain? Because it all happened, and it was kind of like that fight or flight. You were just
yes.
constantly waiting to protect yourself so you didn't have to prepare.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I stayed ready.
Yeah. So, and how much were you really yourself with people when you talked to them in that state?
I was not myself until like a year ago.
Okay. Beautiful.
I spent so long wearing I didn't even know I was wearing a mask, but I was. It was
Mhm.
all survival.
So I can't remember what the fourth one is, but there's four states, and fight and flight are two of them.
Hmm.
One of them is fawn, and it's not talked that much, like a baby fawn deer,
Hmm.
but it's literally saying yes to please the person so they don't hurt you, to make no uncomfortable thing happen, and you just keep agreeing to shit that your body isn't in agreement with,
Yeah.
but just so that you don't get hurt or that anger or whatever. I would say at least 50%, if not more, of people are in a constant state of fawning. They will just agree to anything to make people happy, just in case they might get mad because the last guy that got mad hit me or hurt me or raped me or whatever, and they'll just agree with it
Yeah. And then be in resentment later.
of themselves.
Yeah.
They won't even blame the person. Sometimes they'll just blame themselves. It's like, how could I be so stupid? Why did I do that?
Yeah.
uh, and yeah.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking of back to a former person that I dated that was always people pleasing. Like even if he was tired, he would go out of his way and had no boundaries, but he was so depleted, but like he couldn't say no. He just couldn't do it.
That was the only way you got intimacy or sexuality or touch or whatever. Sometimes
Approval.
that too.
Approval.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
But
we're constantly in this state of missing all these things, and we're trying to pervert ourselves into pleasing everyone so that we can find a happy state where we can actually love ourselves then.
yes.
Right.
And it's like a never ending thing. Like you might get a hit of it, you might get some dopamine,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not healthy dopamine.
Mm-hmm. Well, I saw you were reading that book today. I'm sure it talks about a whole
So
bunch of
good.
stuff.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's a really good book. It talks, it actually addresses like how your brain is wired for dopamine, and it will recreate certain, let's say if you have an emotional addiction to something,
Mm-hmm.
it'll purposely create that emotional addiction to get
Over and over
its hit.
to feed you. Yep.
Yeah,
It's like cocaine or heroin or
exactly.
whatever, exact same receptors,
Yes.
and basically you're chasing it, and that chasing could be breakups, that chasing could be always failing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the downside of it, it doesn't have to be chasing a positive experience. It's just reinforcing that I'm bad and I'm not good enough to have a lover or whatever, and then you're addicted and constantly sabotaging yourself and you don't even
Yeah.
know it.
Yeah, yeah. And that goes hand in hand with why perhaps manifestation is not operating in the desired way.
If that effect is going on in the background, it's sabotaging you, and it'll get you that lover, but with this flaw or whatever. Then we always get that flaw, and it's not good. And then you don't even trust yourself that you can manifest anymore.
Yeah, and so then what do you do at that point? You're just like, ah, fuck it. And then just go back into your
Yeah.
like blinder patterns, like
Well, into the
going
cage,
back.
literally.
Yes, the
I'm not
cage.
good enough, and this is happening again. I must not be worthy. Blah 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 blah. Right.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been super diligent with just really being so observational and just like putting those surgical gloves on and
Mm-hmm.
just like coding in those stories. And it's like a code, computer system for
Mm-hmm.
real. And then just like, okay, this is the code of, this is the broken code. This
Mm-hmm.
source code is not working. And just like really just taking that story. It's like what I've learned is like we are all just comprised of these stories, these stories that we tell our subconscious mind. And the subconscious is something actually we should talk about too, because that is where the powerhouse lies.
Mhm.
It doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. That's the body.
So we're going to come back to this, but just bare all question for both of us. Are you a master manifester yet?
I don't know.
I certainly am not. I'm still trying to figure it out every day, and my dream lover isn't here, and all that kind of stuff. So don't feel bad if you're not in that state. Like, we're happy we know this stuff, but it's
But I think what we're trying to do is manifest in an entire different life and landscape,
absolutely.
which we are just doing the groundwork for that. But I see it externally with friends. Like I see it. Like they all have their dream lovers. I'm like, bitch, I made that for you.
So why is that? Are you manifesting for them? Because sometimes that's a little guilt in our head of like, I'm not worthy of that until other people, and we give ourselves away. More
I
times
am happy. No, I'm totally thrilled because I just believe that your external reality is just mirroring what's to come.
Mhm.
I
So
think.
it's coming for sure.
Yeah.
So you're really good at manifesting for others, but you're just coming there for you, right?
Um, I mean, I think it just goes. It's symbiotic. I
Mhm.
think it's symbiotic.
Well, they're in your energy, and you're gonna allow it, right? So
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So just everybody, it's not like we're talking as experts on this stuff, but we're
Not at
learning new
all.
processes and we're tuning it.
Yes.
Because what we
Yes.
want is big. It's not just like a lover that kind of loves us or whatever. We're pulling in their real juice here, and we're really purifying what we want and how it's got to be. So we're playing for all. So that's
Yeah.
why I know my manifestation isn't happening yet, but start small. 'Cause
Yes.
it's a lot of disappointment to go for the all, but once the all comes in, you know you really cleaned yourself up and you've really purified and those things you talked about, right?
I also like creating journals. Like manifest. I have a manifestation journal, and I'll just write
Cool.
present moment, like what it is.
Beautiful. I'm really good at manifesting. It's like I needed a bagel slicer the other day, and I went to Value Village, which is the recycle thing. And my son's like, "You're never gonna find that. You've been searching on Kijiji for months or whatever." And I'm just like, if it happens, it happens. And it was like a brand new one, almost in the package, sitting there for $5, and they're 20 everywhere else. And I'm just like, and then I did this megaphone thing I was telling you about, where I got the wireless mic and stuff. Like I got that for $10. I didn't need it, but I said that would be really cool if I
Yeah.
had it. And I just let it go, and that shit shows up all the time.
Letting go is like the primary ingredient, I feel. I'm
Yep.
so good with manifesting food.
There you go.
I will think about sushi and straight up it'll be just appear. And I'm like, okay, great. Like
cool. So we took a side turn, but you were starting on another topic, and I want to continue that if you remember.
subconscious.
Yes.
Is it the subconscious
Yes,
mind?
exactly.
Yes. I think I need to read more on that. I kind of dusted it to the side. Ooh, well, there's two parts to it. Subconscious and the image of the self, which is Psychocybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Psychocybernetics. It was a book, but it was like the image you have of yourself.
Yep.
And your subconscious pretty much is the gatekeeper of everything.
Mm-hmm. And what's key to understand about that is your subconscious understandings that will keep you safe is completely taken in from your parents and family up until about the age of 8.
Yep.
Without any filter at all. They could tell you that the color green is red and whatever, and if nobody went against you, you would know that for the rest of your life, that green is red, and they could cross the wire.
Yeah.
So they do the same thing about our sexuality and shame and money doesn't grow on trees and all these kind of things. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. So I deal with trauma in some of the awakening through sexuality stuff I talk about. And it's a place I got to be really, really careful with, because you're starting to deal with the trauma that's something attached maybe 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. And it's got a lot of really strong emotions about it, like a rape or a sexual abuse or something. And then you'll go to the point, you'll work with the body to the point that those things start to release. And the subconscious mind doesn't know what's happening, and it will transpose the past event to the person that's in the room at the moment. So I have to have really strong agreements and contracts with the people that I work with, because they won't be able to distinguish, even though there was nothing sexual about what was going on or those kind of things. They'll sit tomorrow and their psyche will start to fall apart, because the foundations that were holding up all these rules, like I'm not safe and men aren't good or whatever,
Excuse me.
will all of a sudden start to transpose, and the subconscious mind will go in there and it will make it into true, and it will twist things whether they like it or
Yes.
not. So it's very important to have a very clear understanding of what happened, why it happened, and this is going to happen, because there'll be a period of time where that subconscious mind is just clawing to have everything make sense. And I don't know, the awakening process for me, I'm in that all the time, where my subconscious mind is just seething to grab onto something that makes the old truth true, and I'll have to just give it up. It's a state of surrender that you have to be in all the time, to that maybe the subconscious mind is wrong, and 9 times out of 10 it is, and that's the thing that'll self-sabotage us more than anything. So you're gonna say something?
I don't know anymore.
Okay.
And it's like, and you can make suggestions to the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind loves suggestions and being put in a hypnotic state. Like, I think alpha is the best one for programming. It's either like alpha or gamma. Gamma, maybe
Yeah.
gamma. But it loves suggestion, and it like your conscious mind can like be like, okay, I want that. Okay, great. The subconscious is where the goal maker happens, so you have to like suggest to it in a certain way and go through those programs.
And you want to know the scariest thing of all? That state of being open hypnotically is the same state we get in when we drive a car.
Watch
and the
TV.
radio's on, guess what? It just goes straight in your ear. When you watch a movie and the commercial comes on, guess what? You're in that suggestive state. And they can put Wolex or whatever on, and you're going to have to go to the store tomorrow and buy a bottle of Wolex, because that's what frickin' went in at that moment. So we live in a world where we're constantly in a receptive state.
And just like consume, like, can you imagine if this was the suggestions were like, you are going to do great things in the world, like go help a stranger out tomorrow, you're going to do wonders. Can you imagine what world?
Well, look at the shit that's going on now. Like a program on TV, it's down to under 40 minutes of 60 minutes is what the program is. That's been going down steadily, and they keep saying, all these media things keep saying they're losing money and all this kind of shit. Well, they're programming your mind for 5 minutes in between every 10 minutes worth of the show, and they're taking from you. They're inserting these hypnotic suggestions. Can we imagine? Yeah, okay, it's like, here's a love break, and you are very happy and you are calm now, or it's the last 5 minutes of the show, so you had the choice to watch the show and get that induction, but instead you now pay for cable, you pay for the program, you have to watch their advertising, you have to watch all this crap, even like YouTubes and stuff like that. It's getting horrible now. You watch, and it can be 3 minutes before they decide, depending on the content, that they're going to insert something. And it pulls you out of your entrainment and your relaxed, grounded state. And it just keeps bashing at you with all these words and complex things and loud music and flashy things. I don't know if you've looked at it, some of the studies of how inducive it is. It's like, there used to be, back in the 50s and 60s, they'd interpose just one frame with a word on it in the middle of a advertisement, and you would instantly be gravitated to food or hungry or eat popcorn in the movie theater, or
subliminal messaging.
And we don't even know what's happening. And then there's things like neurolinguistic programming. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's like putting people in a state of entrainment. I just do it naturally. It's not that I do it for good, of trying to get people to see a new perspective, but just talking in a very direct way, talking very quickly, can get a person so that they just kind of like absorbing, because it takes too long to whatever. And then you can say, okay, are you loving yourself? is that about self-love, or is that whatever? Or asking questions at the right time when it's in that suggested state. And you can get people that's less like, holy fuck, I didn't realize I just said that word, or whatever. So that the more we're in presence, that's that state of entrainment or suggestibility. Can you imagine just you saying to yourself, I'm loving myself in this moment, and I'm picturing my dream lover showing up, I'm picturing money come up. You're entraining yourself and then inserting a suggestion.
Yeah. And then
That's what presence is, manifestation is, we're talking about. Go ahead.
and then belief, the belief that you can have it.
Mm-hmm. But your subconscious mind is the nasty bugger that's in the middle that says, no, your dad said you weren't worthy of it. And you're going to have to get in a really suggested state and start to look back at that exact moment when it first happened, and now process it with your adult mind and say, okay, I was 6. My dad said that, and I wanted the red bicycle, and I had a tantrum afterwards. And you got to go back and say, okay, well, my dad was only working one job back then, or he just got laid off and he had a reason for it. And you kind of unwind it because it's not direct to you. It has something to do with their parents or the 30s or whatever. Most of the parents before our parents, like grandparents, they grew up in the 30s, and there's a scarcity mentality. And it's like, I got to save all the egg cartons and the cans. And what if we run out of food tomorrow, or whatever? And that's in you, whether you like it or not, because your mom taught you.
Yeah, yeah. And you like World War II, World War One, like all of that trauma.
Oh,
The
how much huger
depression.
is it for Russian people or German people or French? Because they were getting bombed and people were being raped and killed and whatever. Jews were
Yeah.
being thrown in concentration camps.
Extermination camps. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
I think, yeah, every race, it seems, has some sort of trauma, ancestral trauma.
mhm,
And so it's just like even those ancestral links have some sort of potential blockage
mhm.
to manifesting.
I can't remember what the name of it is, but Will Smith does this video on Netflix, and it's about the Constitution and the 13th Amendment.
Uh-huh.
And he talks about how Black people had to get out of slavery, and even when they won their freedom, there was still this slavery, whether or not it happened. So it's all in the process of the minds and the bodies. And it was kind of cool to see how the Black soldiers joined up with, I can't remember the North or the South, I can't remember the whole story, but it actually shifted the tide of the war, because now all of a sudden they had these thousands and thousands of more soldiers, and then they got their freedom out of that because they fought for the Constitution and Republic and all this kind of beautiful things. And yet we have racism rampant across our country in a lot of different ways, like police and how they're treated and all these kind of things. No matter how much beauty and choice and shift happened, there's always somebody with some subconscious thing that's stuck in there that's still running the war.
Yeah. Yeah. And like mainstream media is very skilled at bringing those traumas on a collective level, like how many, the Black Lives Matter thing. And now that's like, okay, that happened. Now they're bringing it back to bringing George Floyd justice, and they're going to put this officer on trial. It's like,
what a crazy ass shit. And if you go underneath and you understand some of the truth of that, there's something funny going on there because it's not the way the media portrayed it. So, but with people that have an interest in dividing people, it worked really, really well.
oh, yes.
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 So we just start to understand those things and away we go.
Yeah. The
So
apes are getting smarter.
the apes are getting smart. Well, be careful. The Planet of the Apes Day could come, right? There's a whole
Oh, God.
so manifestation is the sum result of everything we've ever been programmed, and whether it's possible is reliant on core beliefs and subconscious programming to allow it to even show up. And if you're not worthy, that beautiful person that you want in your life could show up and you'd sabotage it right then and there, call them something or send them away. Or some people talk about twin flame reunions, and the first thing they do is just like slap them in the face with something said because they don't want to deal with what's coming up, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's how to get out of trauma. Re-traumatize somebody else. Tell them that they're bad or whatever, and they'll walk away. And that's what the subconscious mind will do. It's like, oh, I'm terrified. It's like I'll say the worst, darkest thing about you and say you're awful, and then you're traumatized along with me. And who
Yeah.
wins? Nobody does.
Hurt people hurt people.
And you got to be a really strong person to not go there and not to lash out and all that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you, in a relationship with a lover, when you can sit there and you can stand in your trigger and see them breathing fire on you, and you're responding from, hold on, why are you saying these things about me? I don't agree with them. And you're calm, and they're just like, ah! and you know who's the adult in that situation. And I'm not saying that's better than the other, but the adult is the one that's understanding that there's something else going on here, and to rise above it and then make a choice whether or not you re-engage with the same. I don't know if you ever heard the term emotional intelligence, but it's been a thing that's been really important in my life. But I used to manage a whole bunch of employees, and somebody trigger you and you get mad or whatever, and you could have a screaming match at them and say, what the F is wrong with you, and get the hell out of my office or whatever. And then you spend the next 3 months cleaning up that mess so that some trust was rebuilt, which is emotional intelligence. So that little boy just went and spouted for 30 seconds and it felt really good in the moment. Or did I want to spend that 3 months rebuilding trust and all those kind of things? That's huge in all of this kind of stuff. If you can take that breath and say, hold on, I can't talk right now because I'm really, really angry. And then just step away, come back in 5-10 minutes. And all of a sudden it's like, whew, okay, my dad said this to me and you triggered it. And I'm not going to point it at you, but I prefer to have this conversation this way.
Yes. And you're owning it.
Exactly.
I was going to ask, how do you stay present? What are some tools, techniques?
When I'm really screwed up, Epsom salt baths. Go get in the bathtub with lots of Epsom salt, maybe some baking soda, Palo Santo the room. Smudging is really important. A couple times a night or a couple times a week, I'll smudge my bedroom before I go to sleep, and that smell and the stuff grounds me. Before I go to bed, I'll spend about 10 minutes sitting cross-legged out of my bed and just processing what came up throughout the day, and then thanking all the beautiful things that happened, thanking all the bad things that happened, and looking for a higher truth, and then just grounding and breathing until eventually, like I still get out of my head sometimes. Like a day like today, I was probably up 6 inches at times, and then just breathing and then calling yourself back in and just feeling my energetic ass and my real ass all joining together on the meditation pillow is the ultimate. Going down into your feet. If you got a partner, the most amazing thing is get them to massage your feet. Get some oil and just massage your feet, and you'll be in your body in like that.
Ooh.
I don't know. I got really ticklish feet for the first couple of minutes, but I think that's because I'm not completely in my body, and that tickle just like rings all the way up my body, and then I'll come back down.
Oh, but wow.
After those first 3 minutes of a foot massage or whatever, the first, it's just like, what am I going to do? And then all of a sudden, you just give in at that moment.
I'm giving myself a foot massage.
Absolutely. The other big one on this sacred sexuality side is give yourself an orgasm. I plan out at least 2 times a day. Some people may think that's crazy or whatever, but I build up a state of being nice to myself, go and massage my body and just feel good about myself, and then give pleasure, and then use my breath in the pleasure, and get to the point where you can really, really ramp that pleasure up. And then at the moment when that pleasure release or your orgasm is coming, I literally just suck it into my body with my breath, and I just feel it like crack out my body and my arms and my legs, and that orgasmic energy is now inside of me, and it's like filling right to my crown and right to my toes. And then it's not blasting all over the room, and I can set an intention with it, but that's something I find is a little more sacred, and I want to share that with a partner when that time comes, like manifesting a business or something
Mm-hmm.
huge. But right now, just that expanding in the Temple of Isis tradition, that's called pulling the energy into your Ka body or your light body. So instead of radiating this light out of your genitals, you're pulling it back into your body and you're expanding yourself. And just imagine you're now 30% bigger because you took all that orgasmic energy and you held it in your body instead of spewing it out or sharing it
Mm-hmm.
with a partner or whatever. You're doing it for you. So I never feel spent afterwards or really exhausted. um, a lot of people that say you got to conserve your seed and all this kind of stuff haven't been taught the process of building your orgasmic energy. Like orgasmic potential is an energy that goes into your body, and um, it can be directed in whatever way you need, but you got to get up to about a 3. If 0 to 10 is your orgasmic range, and you can even go above 10, you got to get up to about a 3 before you start and have an actual orgasm. If you're feeling really low, don't wait at 3, get yourself up to 5, like pull
Mm-hmm.
it up your body. What a lot of people won't tell you, but in ancient native cultures, they'd send these runners that would go between tribes or camps or whatever, and they'd have to run for 3 days straight. They would actually teach them when they got completely exhausted to go lay down in the forest, get their breath back, give themselves an orgasm, build up to that high level, and then take that energy and put it back in their body, and they'd be able to run for another 5 or 6 hours. That's how powerful our orgasmic energy is. So, what percentage of our power are most of us at? I'd say less than 5 from a
Mm-hmm.
sexual. If maybe you got a really hot lover and you're married and you get it more than once a month or whatever, you might be 2 or 3. But most people, no wonder men roll over and fall asleep afterwards, because they've just expended all their seed. They've given it to the woman
Mm-hmm.
because they don't know any better, and they fall asleep.
I've read that semen has decreased in men.
Absolutely. It's testosterone and a whole bunch of other things. If you're not getting it regularly, do you think your body's going to create something that it's got to just absorb in its body afterwards?
Mm-hmm.
So semen only have a shelf life. I don't know. I think it's like 3 days or something like that in the male testicles.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's not getting regular sexuality, and it's especially not for with a woman, like doing it masturbation or other things, do you think it's going to build up a big pot of those things? Likely not. And then testosterone drops, sexual desire drops, all those things decrease the level of sperm production in the body. So
Interesting.
men are unhappy. They got this fight going on inside. Women got ovaries and eggs are coming out, and they're only good until, I don't know, 50s or whatever the number is. We've got these expiration timers for creating life that
Yeah.
are pushing on us all the time. And from a man's perspective, you have to understand that women will look at you and insult you and say, well, that's not controlling yourself. But we have this need to spread the species, and it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a desire underneath. We get horny, we get all these things. It's not because I don't respect a woman or something like that. It's a pull. You've got a pull too as women. And I don't want to say anything that's going to make women angry or whatever, but there's a lot of women that are way more sexual than me, but they freaking hold themselves back so much. They're disavowing what they're feeling in their body, and then they're saying that there's a problem with men. Well, we've got to
Projection.
have a talk as
Yeah.
men and women. And
Yes.
my desire, here's what my desire is, and it's not to dishonor you, but what would you really like? What would open your body? What would make you feel excited? That's part of manifestation. We got to sit there, and it's half of the yin yang of man and woman is going with a whole bunch of shame that their parents taught them in the Cinderella story, and not avowing that they may feel the same as the man, and just saying it, bedeviling what that are we're trying to be truthful. It makes me really sad inside a lot of times, because a lot of beautiful interactions are being thrown away, and then a lot of times it's projected back at the man. Oh, you're being too sexual, or you're too forward, or whatever. And I have to stand up for men on that. I won't allow that anymore in my world, but not in a pushy way where the woman has to now make me happy or something. No, it's like, let's have a discussion about what you really want, rather than I'm staring at your mother across the table while we're having this thing because your mother wouldn't allow you to have that, because that would be bad, right?
Yeah.
Instead, we'll go get drunk and go to the bar and do that thing because we've now turned off our mother in our head, because now we can get wild. Well, tomorrow, well, I'm going to get sexual abuse stated at me because I followed through with somebody that was apparently, no, well, you can't take any medicines, or you can't be on drugs, or you can't be before anybody can make a choice. And then I think a lot of people just won't make the choice. It's always safer not to.
Safer. Yeah, there's that protection again from the brain.
Oh, exactly. So we're back on the sexuality stuff, but it's all about manifestation. That creation energy, that sexual energy, that passion energy will create the biggest things in our world.
Yes.
What do you know the book Think and Go Rich?
Yes, Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, well, that book has been like fucking torn to shreds. They took all the good parts out.
Really?
Part
The
of that,
sexual energy, right?
exactly.
Uh-huh.
All those men, the Thomas Edisons, the Fords, all the big magnates, Morgans and stuff like that, they had hotly torrid sexual lives. They had affairs, they had mistresses, they created fully from their passion energy all the time. So they were constantly doing all these things that they don't talk about now. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask, but were they doing semen retention?
I doubt it. Really, if you're in a fully passionate life, I have some very, very strong disbeliefs of some of this Mantak Chia and other stuff. Sperm energy is one thing, but to get men, basically, if you're getting to the point where you ejaculate at a 3 or whatever, yeah, you're going to be depleted. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, no matter what, you're going to be depleted. Mm-hmm. If you can find ways to build your energy of 5, 6, 7 and up, that depletion is not going to be the same in any way, shape, or form. They say you're literally giving away part of your life force. So if you're living fully in 3D reality and you're having level 3 sex all the time, yes, you're giving away part of your life force.
Okay.
That's most of everybody in this world. But if you're having hot, passionate sexuality with a fully engaged lover and everybody's getting their orgasm and you're doing it for intention and you're at 100% of your love and your life force going in with another person, nobody's going to steal your life force. Nobody's going to do all these things. You're going to create. And that passion that's created isn't 200% from the 100 and 100. It's like 9,000%, because when, well, we can get back into sexual or whatever, but the manifestation energy is based on the level of consciousness we have. And if you've released all your rules and all your core beliefs and stuff that are holding you back, and you now go in with a partner and create from that space, you will create massive things. Look at these billion-dollar empires that Edison's and all these, they knew how to use their sexual energy and that prowess to create with. And that's almost cool. None of us know that now.
Yeah. I want the original manuscript of Think and Grow Rich.
It probably exists out there and it will come out, but as of right now, even The Secret, the full manuscript has been messed around with. I see there's The Secret 2 is coming out now or whatever. It'd be interesting to look at that.
Yeah. She came out with a new book or something recently.
It's something on video I saw too, like I can't remember what it was called. I'm not even going to comment, but
yeah. But I think the average individual, I think The Secret isn't even digestible. Because I remember my sister was talking about a very long time ago when it first came out. She's like, so what? I think of a purple desk and a purple desk is going to pop up. So it's just like skepticism was already.
Well, it was built in right from the very beginning, right? And they'd try it once and it wouldn't work out or whatever. But people they had so many core beliefs underneath that made it impossible. I think that would have been the key to look at first, the core beliefs, the traumas and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then once you're free of those, then you're worthy of those things. Can you get a purple desk if you're not worthy of a purple desk?
Yeah.
You're screwed before you even made the intention or the try.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
and then you fall on your face and you're like, oh shit, I'm another failure again. And we're not failures. We just are learning.
We're magicians
Mhm.
learning. Yeah, I think what's put me onto this awakening journey
Mhm.
was the concept of being able to manifest and change your reality.
Mhm.
Like I since that topic was introduced to me, I in the back of my mind when I was younger had always just had
Mhm.
that hunger to
Mhm.
learn what that was. Like, how the fuck do I do this? Like, I want to change my reality. Why not? I want to
But
manifest.
but let me ask you this question. Did you want to change the world so that that thing was possible, or did you want to change your personal reality?
It was selfish before my awakening. It was for my own benefit.
No, that's not bad. I'm just saying a lot of people want to change the world so it's possible to have freer sexuality or whatever, and you're trying to heal
No,
everything around it.
it was
So it can be backwards.
pre-healing days. It
Okay.
was it was ego. It was very ego oriented.
But I think now I'll speak from my perspective. Mine's, I wouldn't use the word ego now because that just shoots ourselves down, but mine is projected towards my reality. And I can't make massive changes in reality so that it happens, but I can change it in the world that I live in.
Yeah.
So it's less ego, it's more about taking responsibility for my personal reality. And my personal reality is
Yes.
completely revolved around all this old shit. So now I have the ability to change all that old shit in me without anybody in the outside world changing. And then it becomes part of my reality first.
Yeah.
It's a very different way of looking at manifesting, where before it was like, okay, the money has to come so I can get the red Ferrari so I can feel this feeling and drive down the freeway.
Yes.
And you were screwed because now you had to deal with your money issues and the car issues and whether or not you could get insurance and all this stuff. But now it's like, holy shit, I really love that feeling of the wind in my hair and driving that red Ferrari down the road. And yeah, maybe now it comes as a rental car because they didn't have anything else at the rental car place when you came and you got the red Ferrari for a day. Did you say
Yeah.
how long you needed it for? And that's probably all you need in a lot of cases to get it out of your mind, right?
Yes, the feeling is the secret, which is a lot of scripts written by Neville Goddard. Neville
Mm-hmm.
Goddard. Feeling is the secret. So it's like, okay, like what is the feeling that I want this? I want a lot of money, but what does that mean? What does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean you want to feel security?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, because like you could get a lot of money, but if you got locked up in a cupboard for the rest of your life with your $1 million, like it's the security, perhaps that's the feeling that you want. And you could access that right here, right now.
And most people don't do that drill down process, right? They don't say, okay, why do I want this and what's it going to bring to me or whatever, and then it mangles up against 15 different core beliefs that all of a sudden make it impossible, right?
Yeah.
I think the biggest is got to get rid of the how, because
Mm-hmm.
that'll shoot ourselves in our head. It's like, oh, I need $1 million to be able to buy a Lamborghini or something big.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get rid of the how and you get into the flow of self-worth, and then you just be, and then you start to allow, then those little twinklings of creation start to happen. And
Yeah.
you make the small things and it's like, okay, I got that bagel cutter, it feels good. And then, oh, I can do this. And then it just starts flowing and all the stuff that doesn't really matter. And then you start to realize you are in flow all the time and it's been going, but you just haven't acknowledged it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it starts ramping up. And that's the pace I feel. It's like all these little things are starting to come together and it's just getting me really excited that something can happen. And then I try and do the Lori Lab thing, and then those don't work out, they fizzle, and then you just have a
Mm-hmm.
little crash.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But each time you get back up and then you do the little things again. And that's the process, is what I'm finding.
Yes.
How about for you?
Yes. That is accurate. It's like letting go of the attachment of how it should be. Oh, the message I got was living in the end result.
You said that the other day. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what does that mean to you?
I mean, it goes back to that feeling thing. Okay, security. Okay, let me live in that security right now. Let me live in that result of what I want to bring, have it now. Like if it's living in a particular house. Like,
Mhm.
let me walk like I'm living in that. Let me breathe like I'm already living in that end result. Like I'm not controlling it anymore. I don't have anything to control. It's already here.
Mhm. So if you were the old Anya, where security came from a lover and having a relationship and all this kind of stuff, can you see how that wouldn't be possible?
Yeah.
Because now it brought in these 15 other factors that you didn't even know were attached to your security.
Yeah. It's like, um, okay, you can ask for those things you want, no problem, but the universe is just going to put you through the ringer a little bit so you can clear all of that gunk before you get into that other stuff.
And you'll be having a relationship issues and you're like, I can't even get to security because he's yelling at me or whatever. And it's
Yes.
all coming up. So you just got to take that time to step back and look at 10,000 feet and say, oh, security's coming up in a whole bunch of different ways here. Which is the one I
Yeah.
really want, right?
Yeah. I met this, I have a, not as much as I used to, but there are weird messages that I get from characters that come into my life just for a message. Some are they're mostly harmless, but they are very witchy and I get bad energy from them. So I'm like, okay, thanks for the message. Bye. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget when I had left my partnership because I was listening to my intuition. The day I was supposed to get on a plane, I did not to meet the partner. And instead, I went down to the beach with my parents and I was walking with my nephew. And I just happened to meet this woman. She was a very good looking woman. And she had a house right on the strand. And her kid and my nephew were somehow, it just managed for them to connect and they were playing. And I was talking to her. And she was like, this beautiful woman, like I think an aspiration for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what compelled me to, but I just told her what had happened to me. And she, oh my gosh, like the messages she gave me just gave me goosebumps. And she's like, oh, you listen to yourself. But what she said that I still think about to this day was, when you figure out who you are and you surrender to that, everything is going to fall into place. The money, everything.
So can you only just imagine what your insecurities are doing to you every day? And
Oh God, I know what they're
yeah,
doing.
it's just like just dagger, dagger. And here we think demons and past lovers are doing it, and we're doing it all to
No,
ourselves.
we're doing it all. They're just a mirror.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I thought about that and I think about it all the time. And I've just been in that space of surrendering. And, she was like, if you want to drive that car, feel like you're already driving it.
Mm-hmm.
And just like it really just does come down to that.
Mm-hmm. And
Once
she's
you clear
obviously
the trauma, now you can play a little bit more.
absolutely. That's why my thing in life is to get everybody clear of their trauma as quickly as possible. And that,
Yes.
can you imagine if getting out of that trauma in pleasure would be way better than going to a therapist and screaming and crying and yelling and fighting every day of your life for the next 20 years to desensitize yourself so that you either figure it out or can at least walk with it. That's why this path is for some people. It's not for everybody because it's going to trigger the shit out of people. So
Dude, yeah, this path is crazy. I feel like I'm crazy.
you're not.
Thank you.
You're very well spoken, and we're talking some pretty high level stuff here in ways of self responsibility, accountability, vulnerability about ourselves. And I don't think we're telling anybody to do anything. We're just speaking from our experience and how it's worked out and why we got to stop blaming and we got to stop pointing fingers and we got to start making new stories, because those are the very things that
Yes.
will keep us buried.
We are the writers, actors, directors of our own movie and
Absolutely.
producers.
And then we got an overlay of a bunch of shit that our parents and the rest of the world put in on top that we fit within.
Yeah. But it's like
um,
taking inventory of that script. Go
mhm.
ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, my friend Joey Costa, she lives
Mm-hmm.
down in Arizona right now or something, but she has this thing called Presence Manifest. And she basically says that you are living in a soup of uncompleted movies. and you've run the scripts and you're still living in the part, and you really need to stop and recover all your energies from it and put it in the film reel box and maybe throw it in the fire.
Yes.
Sometimes, because that's the only way you're going to be free of, oh, I was this, or I was bad, or I did something.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got this like mantra. She does it differently, but it's just like I end, cut, clear, dissolve, and resolve all cords, contracts, energies, attachments at all levels, all bodies, all incarnations now related to X that's going through my life, to having cars pull out in front of me and block my intersection to come into my house. Like clear it right here and right now. And then cool things happen because now all of a sudden that story's not playing. And I'll tell you a secret. When you can go look at that situation or that movie and have absolutely no attachment to it or no fear or anger or wishing you did differently, and it's just like it happened. Like I'm almost to that point with my divorce. It's just like, okay, it happened. It was
happened.
The greatest thing that happened in my life. I thought a whole bunch of other things created off of it, but I cut all my energetic attachment to that. I'm not a bad person. If anything, I turned into 100 times better person because I'm now fully aware of my reasons, my actions, my choices, and I stand behind in integrity every single one of them. And they were for me. And if you think that's me being selfish, fuck you, because that's the hardest fucking thing you'll ever do in your life, is to go look at all that shit and deal with it and make peace with it. But if you want to fucking blame or say you're selfish, when you're dying in a marriage, is it selfish to continue dying, or is it now okay a time to start loving yourself? And that will be the hardest question you're ever going to answer for yourself. And I challenge you to come back and go through that and then tell me that I was being selfish, because I won't call a single person selfish. That is the hardest choice you will ever make in your life.
It
to go
is
against everything.
Yes.
And marriage, you lose your friends, you're scared you're hurting your kids, you lose your house, you lose half your money, you lose all this shit. I am so fucking powerful from going through that. I don't wish it upon anyone. And I will be the first to give you advice in different ways. Things like finding your sexuality elsewhere. If your partner doesn't want sexuality, you can still have a marriage. You can still keep those kids in the same house. But the minute you hold on and say you can't have sex with somebody else because I don't want to have sex with you, you fuck that person.
Yeah.
You make it catch-22 where now they got to give up themselves. There's so many different choices, and I've learned what all of those are now, and I'm happy to talk about them. But if I scare the hell out of you, I'm sorry. But I am going to continue. Come back when I don't scare the hell out of you, and we'll have a really beautiful conversation.
Oh, I love
That's who I am.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, it's like releasing all judgment you had of that situation.
Mm-hmm. So take a look back, and I encourage everybody on this call. What are the things? Write them down on a piece of paper. What are the things that you still wish you could have done different and wish it couldn't have happened? Because you can't change a freaking thing about any single one of them. All you can do is live with it here and trust that you did something that may. The hardest thing that I've found in these last couple of months is something that appears hurtful to a person, but is from honest truth. That is the strongest gift you can ever give to anyone. Like when your sister came at you and you stood your power and all this kind of stuff, you could have also said, well, I really see some holes in your life too, or whatever.
Yeah.
That would have been the jab that might have cultivated her to something else. She probably wouldn't have ever gone there because that was too terrifying. It may have seemed hurtful. Maybe she cried. Maybe she swore and screamed at you. That lets the air out of the bag a lot faster, and you can move forward and get through it in that way. And it might destroy your family relationship. It might destroy all those things. When my sister came and told me that thing about how hurtful I was, I said, you don't get to talk to me about this. You are in shame and you are in guilt or whatever. You got your own marriage problems. You cannot possibly see where I'm coming from. I love you. Thank you. But we're ending this conversation right now.
Boundaries.
And it just cut the conversation off because it was like fair reason was given. And that's the best act of love that you can ever give.
To both yourself and to the other person.
Exactly.
I love that. I always have this hope with her, like this time it's going to be different. Like it's going to work out this time. But each time I just feel like we're revisiting the same thing over and over again, where she just says something crazy to me and then I'm just there just like, all right, taking it. And then it creates the distance all over again. And then I evacuate my body or numb myself around her. And then
And
the
where
cycle
did all your
repeats.
power go when you did that?
When I numb myself,
Well, when you're in the middle of receiving that,
oh, when
and
I'm
you just
receiving
let
it.
go, and you go into fawning, right?
Yeah, in a sense, yes. I mean, I have my boundaries with fawning. I can't go too far into that because that's just not
You're
what I'm
growing.
made of
Yep.
anymore. But I started like preaching about God the last time in like a public restaurant. So
Just always understand that when they're getting under your skin, and your family's going to know the best way to do that.
yes.
They're loving you in this most beautiful way, but it's so fucked up based on a whole bunch of other energies about not making them uncomfortable, or agreeing with mom
Yeah.
and dad have taught us, because they've been that really good girl and they followed exactly the Cinderella thing that they said, and I'm better than you because I did. Well, you tried and it didn't work out and it felt like shit. To do anything different would have killed you. But you're seeing a new perspective. That thing that you spoke of in your video is falling apart around her. You said she's not happy and overweight and all this kind of stuff. So who really knows the secret? The person that's willing to listen and hear and receive, but not lash out or not hurt or whatever, because you see it. You're seeing it from, there's something inherently wrong with this whole process.
Yes.
And but is it your place to show her that she's wrong? Probably not.
No.
Exactly.
No. No. Yo, like all I want to do is talk about cool things. Like I'm not even trying to go. Anyways,
And that's where we have to
manifestation.
sometimes walk away from our families and just love them.
Yes.
And then one day they'll be ready and they'll come and ask a question. And to do it too soon it might not be the best for the highest.
No. Yeah. Yes.
So
Yes.
you did nothing wrong,
Oh no, I did not.
but you're growing.
Always.
You learned something and now you can see them for what they are, where before it was like, oh, I'm not good enough to be in her club or whatever. And
I don't want to be in her club.
no. Exactly.
I got the coolest club on the block.
Beautiful. Well, I think we're coming up to our hour and a half if we're not all over. So I'll let you have a couple minutes here and give some closing remarks. We went all over the place here. So
I know. And I have to point out and excuse myself from today because I woke up. I took a late nap on accident and it went for 2 hours. So I'm a little delirious. I'll be better next time. But
you weren't delirious. You were very coherent and talked about a lot of deep shit. Don't self-deprecate. You just got extra energized before you got on.
Thank you. But I think my closing statements are: examine what you truly desire. Is it what you from your heart want, or is it some sort of conditioning that you picked up on from a cool rap video? Because in the past I thought I wanted those things, but it's not what I truly wanted in my heart. So making that differential point, and really just the affirmation that I'm at the point where I cleared a lot of stuff, and there's always going to be more stuff to clear. But it's, for me, it's just, I'm at the space of just affirming, I deserve this. I deserve this. And so using that affirmation and letting go and being in the moment, the flow, the surrender, even when things get a little scary.
Mm-hmm. When things get scary, you cry and you get sad and you get angry and all those kind of things. And it's perfectly okay to be them and let them go. And that's the first step to healing.
They're all dinner guests. Like, pretend like you're throwing a party. You've got anger coming to the party. You've got sadness. You've got annoying. You've got boring. But you've got love and joy also joining. And we're all sitting at the table.
And all your family and all your ex-lovers are sitting there too.
They're sitting at the kids' table.
Okay.
They're sitting at the kids' table.
Your choice. So,
how about you?
How about me? What I just really like to impart to people is, this is all perfect. We're doing the best we can based on what's happening in that moment and whatever story and all that kind of stuff. And you're going to be angry sometimes, and it's not going to work out more often than not for a little while until you're going to get things going and you're not doing anything bad. Just trust and have faith that there's some higher part of you that's trying to give it to you, and just be open and receiving to doing it in the least struggle, the least pain-filled way. And that's only through surrendering a little bit. And that act of surrender is just breathing and accepting that you're sad, accepting that you're angry, accepting whatever state you're in, and just say, fuck, it's not working right now, but God, make this easier. Show me the way quicker.
Yes.
Give me that. Don't sit there and beat your head against the wall. Say you're bad. I fucked up. This is awful. Just love yourself, and just understand that underneath is a little boy or a little girl that's just crying, and it's hoping that for this one time that somebody will listen and love them and hold them and just sit there and stroke their head, and it's really your head. And just understand that that thing that you want isn't being kept from you because you're bad. It's being kept from you because you wouldn't want the result based on who you are right now.
Ooh.
And that changes everything. And that's scary as hell, but would you want a messed up marriage? Would you want a messed up divorce? I've went 50 years of my life loving women and being attracted, and none of them seem to be interested in me. And I'm like, there's got to be something wrong with me. But no, there's nothing wrong with me. I am standing for full and true unconditional love, and an awakened woman that's going to trigger the shit out of me, and I'm going to trigger the shit out of her, because that's where the most magnificent healing, the most growth, the most beautiful sexuality, the most depth of soul is going to come. So I sit and I just keep looking at myself, and that self-exploration. You stand up here and it's like, okay, is that from security? Is that because my dad said something? And then eventually that little story will come, and it's like, okay, now I got to go look at that and close off that movie. Yeah. So, and if Joy, if you do happen to watch this video, put your stuff in the bottom. People might want to learn about Presence Manifest. But we got to just keep turning those movies off over and over and over and over and over again. And then you're going to find out, once those things aren't playing, you're going to see yourself without all those tags and those labels and those fuck ups. And then you're going to say, okay, what's the next stage? Let's try the next one. This might be a little scary. Let's turn up the speed a little faster, because you don't want to wait the rest of your life or whatever. And now's the perfect time to clean up all that shit. Everything will show up in a very short period of time and will come quickly and easily. And it doesn't have to be through struggle. And I'm going to make a declaration right here. I've lived so much in struggle for so long. I choose to step out of the struggle, and that I did bad or I could have done better. And I'm going to choose to be fully worthy and fully happy. And it's all going to be from ease and grace and flow now, so that those things show up, and I'll just transition through them like this. And it won't be a bunch of crying or sadness. It'll be just like, wow, oh, I see that. Oh, okay, I won't do that next time. Oh, great. Because now we're making a choice for the future, and then you put it into that manifested thing, and guess what? Now it comes in all shiny colors, and it wasn't last time. And you did something. So
that was so beautiful.
It is. So we're doing nothing wrong. And if you feel beat to shit, that's exactly what you needed to get right here. And I'll tell you right now, and I'm sure Anya will tell you, you got to hit the bottom of that shitter and clean the floor up before you can do anything for yourself. If you just sit there in that victim and lay in the poop, it happens over and over and over again. And the toilet bowl sucks you in. What's that?
Yeah, enjoy it. Enjoy. Like, it's like trying to stop trying to change the moment. Stop trying to control the moment. And if you're in the shitter, like, you know what? I'm just going to sit in this shitter for a little bit.
And it's going to put roses on and perfume and all that kind of stuff and try and make it like I made the top. No, this is pretty close to the bottom. Thank God.
Yeah, but that's a vital ingredient though, like resistance to what is.
Mm-hmm. And trust me, once you've really found bottom, it doesn't get worse after that. You can want to kill yourself. You can want to hate yourself. You run away, be on pills, drugs, whatever. Once you've really, really found the bottom, you know who the hell you are, and you just start choosing better. And every choice is better. And it's like a set of stairs, and you climb up. and you're cleaning and polishing all the shitty spots all the way up until one day you're just like, yeah, I really deserve this. She's gonna come over here and visit me, or that money's gonna show up in my bank account tomorrow, and then it does. You're like, holy fuck.
In the most unexplained ways.
Absolutely. That's the magic.
Thank you.
We're coming. We're getting there.
I feel it. I feel the
Absolutely.
wings.
Oh, I can see my future, and it's big and bright, and I just can't connect A and B dot, but that's the how. So
Yeah.
no more how. It's just gonna magically happen tomorrow. Thank God.
It is. It's already happened. It's here. We're just going into the other now moment for it to align.
Yep. Well, I'm gonna wish everyone a fun night, and I thank my co-presenter here, Anya, and we had a blast.
Sleepy Anya.
too.
I'm gonna have a fun time going to sleep tonight.
Oh, you just created that, so maybe you want to change your words?
I will change my words.
You're gonna sleep like a baby tonight. Just
The
like
best sleep ever. Yeah.
Best sleep ever. Cool.
Thank you so much.
Those are the other things that we got to keep watching out for, and that's why we got to have family and soul family, and they just kind of remind us of what we just said.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, we'll talk about the relationship to words in a different
Absolutely.
segue.
Coming. Have fun. We'll
Thank
talk
you.
soon.
Bye.
Love you all. Have a good day.